Welcome in, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. 6 days until the midterms, and the panic is officially setting in. A Quinnipiac poll just came out, shows Hispanics voting for Republicans, maybe for the first time ever in a midterm. We will see how exactly all of this shakes out, but it is time that fear is taking over in the Democrat Party to such an extent that Joe Biden is going to address the nation tonight from Union Station, which used to be a jewel of Washington, D.C. Many of you may have been there before in your lives as visitors, as tourists. Maybe you lived in Washington, D.C. like both Buck and I did at some point in your life. But great movie theater, huge food court, tons of different vibrant stores. It now is basically a wasteland for homeless people, which makes it a perfect venue for Joe Biden to have yet again his democracy is in peril speech. Hey, everybody, we're excited for election night, as many of you are as well. We're going to be having an incredible party in Nashville, and we want you to be able to hang out with us as a part of our VIP family.
So all you got to do is sign up, become a Clay and Buck VIP, and you can stream and join us. Some of your favorite people are going to be there, too. It's going to be an election night bonanza. We'll see you then.
The only thing I can even deduce as what might be motivating this speech, because Joe Biden is the best advocate and ad for Republicans out there every time he speaks. And we're about to share some audio from South Florida from Joe Biden yesterday. If you haven't heard it already, it was a disastrous day of speaking for Joe Biden, as most of them are at this point. But the only thing I can think is that this is an address motivated for the Democrat base because they know the red wave is here. And they are just trying to keep the red tsunami from taking over and try to drive up turnout in their base by hitting the January 6th, Donald Trump, democracy is in peril argument, which frankly, overwhelming majorities of the United States population are rejecting and have been rejecting for a long time now. Is that what you think's going on? How would you even deduce what the White House could be thinking? We got 40-year high inflation. We got the least secure border ever. We've got 21st century high crime, and they keep hitting the January 6th democracy is in peril button when almost no one cares, certainly who's a persuadable voter.
I think at some level they became victims of their own propaganda. I think that the echo chamber that the Democrat media has built in the era of and the era after, although we're still in a Trump era of sorts, has become so polarizing and so unwilling to hear any dissent whatsoever from the dominant message that there was no self-correction possible for this Democrat Party. Now, in retrospect, and we haven't even hit Election Day yet, and we want to be clear, I'm now at the we need to just play it cool, man. Act like you've been there before. Act like it's not your first time in the end zone.
You don't want high-stepping into the end zone. You want to score and hand the ball to the referee and just run back to your sideline.
We got to play this very cool because I'm starting to see some crazy stuff. I mean, I just shared it last night. The Real Clear Politics average seemed to suggest that we could have 54 Senate seats now. And I thought your 53 was bold. Now we're talking 54 Senate seats. I still think it's going to be more like 51 or 52 for the GOP just because I have to inject a little bit of, let's calm it down, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But to your question about how we got to this point where we are, Clay, I mean, Clay and I and our team, producer Allie and the rest, we're sharing thoughts and all throughout the day, before the show, after the show, late at night. And one of the best was from yesterday. They share a tweet out from the White House official account pointing out that, hey, it's the biggest increase in Social Security payments that they've seen in, I don't know, whatever it was, 20 years or something, in a generation. And immediately, the official White House account is getting piled on by people saying, that's because inflation is so high and it's pegged to inflation, you morons.
Yes.
This is a level of political malpractice, not just that one thing that's obviously some tweet, and I'm sure a couple of interns came up with it, or maybe it was Ron Klein, who knows. But the level of political malpractice is so obvious to anybody who's trying to be objective, and really what you see is they're in power, and after 4 years of Trump, Clay, I think they had really honed their skills of hysteria and fear-mongering. But what really was the message of promise, of growth, of prosperity? They haven't even made that case. The best they can muster. We're going to have a 75 basis point hike here coming up any moment. Is it today? Tomorrow? It's going to happen.
2:30 today. It's supposed to be officially
today.
announced.
Yeah. The pitch to the American people of, we're making progress. Things are getting better. That might be a little more compelling if they didn't have Joe Biden. Let's just go over a few of these things.
Biggest hits,
Social
the greatest
Security
hits from
checks
earlier, from down in South Florida yesterday.
But just as a quick preview, New York Times even has to write, Biden verbally fumbles twice during campaign trip in Florida. He fumbled a lot more than twice. And when he says his son died in Iraq, which he has said now repeatedly, this gives you a window into Joe Biden. It's very tragic what happened to his son. His son, by all accounts, was a good man who served his country. He died of a brain tumor. It's a very sad situation. Leveraging that by lying about it for political reasons is wrong.
Yes.
And what Joe Biden is doing with this is wrong. And it's not the first time. But he's a guy who uses things like this. He has used tragedy, family tragedy, to his advantage politically for a very long time. And people are, they don't want to call him out on it because then the Democrat media will jump on you. Clay, he said that he met the guy who invented insulin. Now, look, Joe Biden is old and confused, true. The guy who invented insulin, I believe, invented it in 1920. I don't think Joe Biden was around for that. He may look 100, but he's not actually 100.
Yeah, and let's just play a couple of these if you didn't hear them. So here he is saying, again, his son died in Iraq. And just to make it clear, his son died 6 years after he returned from Iraq in Maryland. Now, Biden tries to claim that he got cancer from being in Iraq, but there isn't actual tangible evidence that that's true. Certainly, we wish that his son was still alive, but when you are claiming that your son died in Iraq, you are clearly trying to say to people he died serving his country. He actually died 6 years after he came back. Listen to this.
They talk about inflation. We're dealing with it for a whole second. Inflation is a worldwide problem right now because of a war in Iraq and the impact on oil and what Russia's doing. The war in Ukraine. And thinking of Iraq because that's where my son died. Because he died.
Okay, not true. Okay, here's that insulin comment that you mentioned, Buck. The man who invented insulin died before Joe Biden was born. Listen to Biden say that he met him.
How many of you know somebody with diabetes needs insulin? Well, guess what? And when Debbie and I passed this law, it included everybody, not just seniors. And so what happened was we said, okay, you know how much it costs to make that insulin drug for diabetes? It was invented by a man who did not patent it because he wanted it available for everyone. I spoke to him.
Okay. Not true. Buck, let's keep
I
going
spoke
here.
to him. Yeah, you spoke to him, all right.
He also claimed that he went to a historically black institution, Delaware State University. This, of course, not true at all. Listen to this as well.
It's great to be at Florida Memorial University, one of the nation's great HBCUs. I'm a big fan of HBCUs. I got my start at one of those other HBCUs, Delaware State University. Okay, that's pretty good, man.
I mean, I don't even know what that means.
But also, this is not the media, as we know. They're liars. They're propagandists, and I hate having to bang that drum every day, but we all know it. It's true. Joe Biden has been a liar on obvious and provably false things. Remember, Trump lies were things like, I'm the best, I'm the smartest, I'm the handsomest. Now, he does have great hair. We can argue about some of these points, right? But they would say when Trump would either be in sales mode or exaggeration mode. But hyperbole, if I say, you're the worst, someone's the worst person in the universe, I'm not actually stating to have met everybody in the universe, right? That's not a lie. But they would run fact checks like this. Joe Biden has spent 40 years in politics lying about things that are demonstrably false, that are pandering, and that also are often bizarre. Like, why lie about that? And I think I think he's a compulsive liar. I really do. I think he can't even control it.
I think he's a compulsive liar, Buck. And unfortunately, I think now he's laden with such dementia. He's also not even aware of what the truth was. So he lied all the time. Lots of politicians lie. But he lies about things that are objectively fact-checkable. And now he can't even speak. Listen to him try to campaign for Charlie Crist. And before we play this cut, let me just remind everybody, we told you this yesterday, Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio are going to win statewide landslides in Florida. So Joe Biden showed up with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, said she was his favorite person in the Senate. She's a congresswoman, has been for a long time. But why would they even send him down to Florida when the result is going to be such a butt whipping for everybody that is going to be running on the Democrat ticket? But listen to his argument here that he's trying to make for Charlie Crist. Buck, he legitimately cannot speak anymore. Listen to this cut 7.
Well, if anybody think if we're doing it for the first time now in the 21st century, going into the 20th, from the 20th century going into the second quarter of the 21st century, that we'd say 12 years is enough? Think 12 years is enough going into 20, 30, 40, 50?
Okay, Joe Biden doing math is obviously going to result in some rough stuff or doing numbers in any capacity. I think, though, there was that Wall Street Journal piece, Clay, about how suburban women in particular are just, and it's been recent, it's the last 30 to 60 days, fleeing the Democrat Party. Okay, they are fleeing the Democrat Party. Yes, it's about the economy, but I think at some level we have to keep in mind that, not a lot of people get too deep into the nuts and bolts of the economy. It's about who do you trust to make decisions and show basic wisdom. The people who are telling you, and I know Joe Biden's not on the ballot, but we all know that he metaphorically is on the ballot, right? I mean, Joe Biden's regime, his presidency, the Democrat Party that he represents, the people who are telling you that Joe Biden's fine and smart and great and with it are the same people that are saying, vote for Hochul, vote for Whitmer, vote for, fill in the blank with a Democrat. And I think people are realizing they'll say that about anybody. I mean, and I think, by the way, the Fetterman situation has elevated the sense of unease people have. They put Biden forward, and we can all see this, and we're talking about it. And now they're even doing the Fetterman thing. These are people who are not of character and don't care about the truth.
I also think, Buck, on the abortion front, there wasn't a swing in the summer, but Democrats oversold the danger, and most moms and suburban women out there are looking around and saying, yeah, things aren't that much different than they were before. And so life has not really changed there. Where life has changed is when you go shopping at the groceries and you have to pay inordinate amounts, price of gas, and also the fact that your kids are now under siege to potentially need this COVID shot. All of those things, I think, matter more to women than they do what Democrats tried to sell them on of abortion.
I mean, look at some of these states, Michigan, New York. There's no change in abortion laws that affects anyone in those states as a result of this, because it's reverted to state laws. A lot of them even had companion laws to Roe v. Wade in place already. And to your point, so it doesn't change where you live in that state. How energized are you going to get as a New Yorker about what the state law may be in Utah? The answer is not very energized. You don't care. And so that's why in a lot of these close races, the kitchen table issues. But what is the Democrat pitch on the kitchen table issues? You see Biden just talked about, $16 billion of energy relief or something. Way too little, way too late. And it's remarkable. I think that they got my overriding thesis here, and we'll come back to this in a second. I think the Democrats got lazy. I think their brains turned into mush from 4 years of Trump is Hitler and Russia collusion. And, it just became so easy. They forgot, who are you representing here? Who are you actually trying to pitch?
I think that in the debates, we certainly saw it, Buck. because they weren't ready to actually get a punch thrown at them because they've been so used to having everybody say, oh, you're the greatest humans who have ever existed in the media. And when they actually faced reality, when real people asked real questions of them, they didn't have good answers and they didn't have good arguments.